Yep. Inside, I want to kill myself. What's up, everyone? This is Toad. I'm back for Better Off Dead, Wednesday, March 26th, as we continue with the worst month that I've ever had in my 18 years doing this. I don't know what to even tell you about this anymore. Yesterday, 0-4 by a combined 4-point slash goals. I mean, what can you even say about this anymore? I felt really good about all those plays yesterday. The market agreed with every single one of them. The lines moved in my direction on every single one of them. And really, Illinois State was the only one that I won't really complain about, as they were losing that whole game. But they still wound up turning it around, and they won by 5. They were never covering in the game, so I'll let that one slide, even though they only missed by a half point. In the end, they won by 5. The line was actually up to 6.5 when the game went off, and I had 5.5. The other ones, all bullshit. Ottawa, of course, I lose more money on that because I laid a favorite price on Ottawa, and they never trailed until what the final score was, even though it was a regulation loss, losing 3-2, I believe. They were never trailing aside from that. They were up 1-0, I believe, and 2-1, winning the game. They statistically won the game for the most part. They had more power plays. They had, for a long period of the game, they were winning 70% of the faceoffs. They had the possession edge. I think they still wound up winning 2/3 of faceoffs, and they lose. Then we had the Charlotte Hornets, who were actually winning the game late in the game down the stretch. They're winning the game outright as an underdog. And then what happens? Tied game with 2 minutes left, and then they never score again, and they lose by the 3 possession threshold there after intentional fouls or whatever. So that's a loss by 1.5 points. They missed by 1.5 on the plus 5.5, and that line was down to 4.5. And then the Seattle Kraken, they were winning the game 2-1, I believe, in the middle of the game. Fell behind 3-2 late, scored to tie it in the final minute and a half just to tease me, and then they lose in overtime. I don't think I've ever had a day more frustrating than that one, man. I don't think I've been 0-4 before, or even 0-5, whatever, but I don't think it's ever been a situation where every game was that close. 0-4 by a combined 4-point slash goals, including an overtime hockey loss. I thought I had the right handicap on all of them. I think Illinois State was the only one that was a deserved loss. It should have at least been 2-2. What can you do? We'll talk about today. I'm going to try to get through this fast. This is a short card today. We got college basketball. The NIT quarterfinals are continuing, and this is where my only play is today, is actually in the NIT quarterfinals. Let me just add it real quick because I'm going to talk about it shortly. Let me see. Oops, I put in the wrong number there. All right. First game up in the NIT quarterfinals. So these games, NIT quarterfinals, these are still hosted by the better seed here until we get to the semifinals, which I was wrong. It's not at Madison Square Garden anymore, apparently. It's going to be at Butler in Indianapolis now, in that weird-ass airplane hangar that they have there with the court sideways. Very strange if you're on the sides in that venue and you're just way, way up there. Seems like a very odd venue, but it's if you've watched Hoosiers, that's where the championship in that movie takes place as well. I watched that recently. That was at Butler as well. So that's where the finals are going to be, and the semifinals. We're in the quarterfinals here. So we got Kent State going to Loyola Chicago in this first game here. Loyola Chicago down from 5.5 to 5. 64% of the cash coming in on them, though, and 53% of tickets on Kent State. So even though the lines moved down, it does look like the cash is coming in on Loyola Chicago. This is a game where both these teams actually play a similar style. They're both more slow down, kind of defensive style teams, with Loyola Chicago being the slightly better team. So this is a pretty good matchup, really, if you like defensive fundamental basketball. I think Kent State probably at a slight disadvantage, maybe because they're playing a third straight true road game here, having pulled off upsets at St. Bonaventure and then going out to the Pacific Coast, beating Stanford, and now they're coming back to Chicago to face Loyola Chicago. 3 straight road games. Loyola Chicago, similar though, as they've been out on the Pacific Coast, but a little bit of less travel because they had both games in the NIT so far on the Pacific Coast, and they barely got by both games, though one of them was an upset against San Francisco, which not easy to do, not easy to beat San Francisco on the road. San Francisco, very good at home. And now we're talking about, speaking of being very good at home, Loyola Chicago, very good home team. They're 16-1 at home, although Kent State was decent on the road too. If you force me to lean, I'd probably lean to Loyola Chicago just because they have a little bit less traveler. Kent State had to zigzag the country twice. Both teams now coming back to Chicago from the Pacific Coast. Loyola Chicago is coming off both teams are coming off an upset, so that kind of negates itself as well. And Loyola Chicago is the better home. They're really good at home. They're the slightly better team anyway. Probably face slightly better competition in the A10 than in the MAC. And both teams very similar, like I said, very similar styles. So probably lean to Loyola there. The next game is where I have a play, and I'm kind of bucking the market here, but I'm going to be on UC Irvine again, even though they didn't cover for me last time. They missed the cover by 2 points. I'm going to do it again here. -4.5. They got 55% of tickets, only 53% of the cash for now. But I like UC Irvine here, man. I think this sets up decently. I lost my, let me see. I lost the NCAA schedule here. Yeah, I like the way this sets up for Irvine better, man. UAB, they're traveling all over as well. They pulled off an upset at St. Joe's. Then they pulled off an upset at Santa Clara, which I thought was a game where they were going to be in trouble, having to cross the country to the Pacific Coast. Although now, yeah, they're used to the Pacific Coast now, so that might help them a little bit. But this game, man, they were losing this game to Santa Clara by double digits into the second half, and they made a furious comeback, came all the way back and won as like 6.5-point underdogs. That was a big win for them. They shot a little bit unprecedented from three-point range of 45.8%. They lost the rebound battle by 11, so that's kind of a glaring mark there. The fact that maybe this was a little bit of a misleading result here because they did shoot better than they normally do from three. They actually got crushed on the boards, and somehow they won the turnover battle, only had 4 turnovers. Not that UAB is that turnover-prone of a team, but usually you don't see a team have only 4 turnovers on the road like this. So I'm kind of expecting UAB to regress a little bit, especially against a team like UC Irvine with the type of defense that they play. So I don't like this for UAB. They're playing a third straight true road game now, and UC Irvine, they played every game at home so far. UAB, 3 straight road games, coming off another upset here and a huge comeback, whereas UC Irvine, this is the game that I lost on. They were up to 7.5 in this game. They were a pretty substantial favorite, and they never really got it going. They had a nice lead early, let it slip, and Jacksonville State was kind of in this game the rest of the way. So UC Irvine didn't really play that well, and I like playing on favorites, like the better team, after they don't have a great game, because I think they're going to be a little bit more focused, and you're going to get a little bit line value on them potentially. So I like how this sets up, man. You got UC Irvine with the advantage because they haven't traveled. They're playing all home games. UAB playing all road games here, having pulled off another upset, whereas UC Irvine coming off a close call as a favorite at home. UC Irvine, by the way, also 12-2 at home, so they've been good at home. It's an unfamiliar venue for UAB. UAB 7-5 on the road, which isn't that. I mean, it's not horrible, but it's certainly not great. So I think you got to give a lot of edges to the home team. Ken Palm has UC Irvine winning this game by 6, so I like that as well. And the other thing about this game is that UC Irvine, they're the better defensive teams. This is kind of a weird mismatch of styles here, where UAB is actually the better offensive team, and they don't play very well defensively. UC Irvine kind of profiles like St. John's, and I know it's not that great as far as like the actual tournament is concerned. If you play like a fast pace, but you play good defense, and you're not a great scoring team, that is basically UC Irvine. But I think what they're going to do is pressure UAB. I think they're going to cause more turnovers than UAB had in the previous game. That is more UC Irvine's game. UAB, I think, wants to play a little bit slower, or actually, maybe I'm not sure. Both of these teams, I think, play a bit on the faster side, so maybe I'm wrong about that. So not really a tempo collision here, but UC Irvine does have the better defense, and I think that might be what wins out here as far as as well as the situation there. So I like UC Irvine. That's my only play today, if that all makes sense. And then we do have the CBI championship is also today with Illinois State and Cleveland State. Both teams playing their third game in this tournament as we're now down to the final in Daytona Beach, Florida. Illinois State coming off a comeback as a favorite yesterday, and they didn't cover for me. Like I said, missed by a half point. I think Illinois State might be a little bit undervalued now, man. Though the Ken Palm tells you both of these teams are a little bit overrated. They're both pretty similar teams, although he does have Illinois State being the better of the two teams. I think both of these teams are better. I think Illinois State is actually the better offensive team, and Cleveland State is the better defensive team. Normally, I would look to the better defense, especially getting points, but I'm not sure about that this time, man. I mean, Cleveland State's had kind of an easy go of it in this tournament so far, and Illinois State maybe coming off a little bit of a game that might shock them back into focus as they didn't look that good against Incarnate Word. I thought it was a good spot for Illinois State to do something there, and they did win, but it took a comeback for them to do it. Illinois State, looking at this, you wouldn't really think they're actually the better team here, but the odds makers are telling you they are, even though the record is a little bit uglier. So I would slightly lean to Illinois State in that one, but it's not a play for me. And then I don't even see it. Where is it on the board here? Is it in the extra games? I don't even see it. No, I don't want to bring up that. Let's see. Yeah, I don't even see it here, but Illinois State's about a 2.5 point favorite here. I don't know why it's not even on the pregame board here, but that is the CBI championship, this evening. And that's all I got to say about that. I think don't have any other plays today. NHL, we got a short card here. Vancouver and the Islanders. I mean, both of these teams are still kind of fighting for playoff spots, man. So this is going to be a game where I think both teams are going to have to show up. Vancouver is coming off a big shutout victory over the Devils, and they're not really traveling far. They're playing a third straight road game, but all in the New York, New Jersey area. But coming off a big shootout win over the Devils, pretty big win there. So maybe it doesn't set up that great for Vancouver, having to play another road game. Islanders coming off a pretty bad loss to Columbus there. That was in a shootout. They played 3 overtime games in a row, though. But they're staying at home, so less travel going on for the Islanders here. Although Vancouver, like I said, hasn't had that much travel recently because they've been staying in the New York area. I think the Islanders are probably the more desperate of the two teams here, as they've had kind of a bad run of it recently, but they might be a little bit more tired because they keep playing these overtime games. Very tough game to gauge. Islanders down from -125 to -121, but they have 62% of the tickets, 68% of the cash. So they do have the cash percentage on them. I probably would agree with that and slightly lean that way. We will see. And then the only really good game is Dallas and Edmonton. Dallas coming off shutting out Minnesota. I keep telling you, I don't think Minnesota's that good. Dallas is, in fact, good. Dallas, though, they had played 4 straight overtime games and then finally didn't play one with that shutout there. Now they start a road trip, so I think it's a positive spot. When you start a road trip and it's a focus spot, you're playing a focus opponent, and Dallas actually lost the last time they played at Edmonton 5-4, so it's a little bit of a quick revenge game for Dallas. That was back on March 8th. So focus spot, you tend to be focused when you start a road trip. So I do like Dallas in the spot for those reasons. I think it is a momentum focus spot for Dallas, even though they did play a bunch of overtime games recently. Edmonton, though, they're coming off kind of a scare against Seattle, where I think I had Seattle in that game and didn't win it. Edmonton has had more time off, and they're not traveling, though. They're staying at home. They've had 3 days off, so I think that's going to help them as well. So I think both teams are going to be focused in this game. Dallas is down from -165 to -145, so the line has moved down significantly on Dallas. Also, kind of strange you see Dallas as a substantial road favorite like this against Edmonton, the conference champs from last year. So the odds makers are telling you that Dallas is actually significantly better than Edmonton. Edmonton may be a little bit overrated this year. I mean, they're very good offensively, not as great defensively. Dallas, 62% of tickets, 96% of the cash. So they do have the cash coming in on them. The line movement has been pretty significant on Edmonton, though. I mean, if you force me to lean, I probably would say Edmonton's in a slightly better spot, but it is a misleading line where it looks too easy to take Edmonton as a home underdog, man. But Edmonton is good at home. I mean, they're 22-11-3. I mean, that's not bad at home. They're a decent home team. Dallas, I mean, kind of mediocre on the road. But it is a good first game of a road trip. It is a focus spot and a revenge spot for Dallas. So we will see. My Boston Bruins are an underdog at Anaheim now. Bruins have lost, 6 games in a row, 7 games in a row. They're pretty much dead. 6 games in a row. They got smoked by the Kings in the last game, and maybe having a couple of days off, maybe that'll help them focus a little bit, and maybe they'll finally play a better game here. I'm not going to put my money on it. Anaheim just lost pretty badly to Carolina in a return home spot. So return home spot, usually a pretty distracted spot because you have stuff to do once you get back home. Although usually you're going to show up for a game against Carolina, but it's just Carolina is significantly better than Anaheim. But after a loss like that, couple days off, I think it is a focus spot for Anaheim as well. Anaheim's up from minus 106 to minus 123 with 70% of the cash on them and 50% of tickets evenly split. So the market read looks pretty strong on Anaheim, so I would lean that way. I mean, the situation doesn't look that strong either way, so unfortunately, I think the Bruins, they're going to be dead. They're dead. And then we got the NBA. Some of these games are just ugly, man. But we do have an ESPN game between the Lakers and the Pacers. Pretty decent matchup here. Lakers actually a road favorite here, up from 1 to 1.5. 53% of tickets, 57% of the cash. So the money coming in on the Lakers, I probably agree with it. Even though the way the Lakers have been playing, they've, I think, won 3 of their last 10 games or something. So they've been on a pretty bad slide. LeBron was injured for a huge chunk of that, though. Now LeBron is back. And in his first game back, they lost again to, who was it that they lost to? I forget. Orlando. So that was a reverse injured player theory spot, though, man. When you get your star player back like that, you have to work him back into the lineup. It can be jarring to your chemistry. Sometimes you don't play well in that game, and then you might play a bit better in the next game. I think the Lakers are going to play better in this game, man, as they've lost 3 games in a row and given up 118, 146, and 118 points. 146 to Chicago is really inexcusable. Now, second straight road game here. I do think it is a focus spot for the Lakers. The odds makers are telling you the Lakers are the better team here, and they're laying points on the road, even though I think pretty much all these guys are going to play for these teams now. So both teams, I think, have pretty much full lineups at this point as far as like LeBron is back. I believe Halliburton is back for Indiana. So not really huge personnel problems here for either team at this point. So odds makers are basically telling you what you need to know. I think it is more of a bounce back spot for the Lakers. Pacers coming off a nice win over Minnesota, but I don't think they're going to overlook the Lakers. I mean, it's LeBron. It is the Lakers and Luka. You're not really going to overlook them, but they do have momentum, winning a bunch of games in a row. But that was a big win over Minnesota. They don't have a bigger game up next, though. It's ESPN. You're hosting it. Yeah, I mean, I think you're still going to be focused. So I'm going to stay away from this game. I do also like the over in this game because Indiana plays fast. They're not very good defensively. And even though LeBron should improve the Lakers' defense, the switch from AD to Luka definitely is negatively impacting their defense. It makes the Lakers a better offense and a worse defense. So I think you do have the makings of an over here, in my opinion. Pacers up from, or the total up from 231 to 235.5, though. So I think you have lost some value on that over. The line moved 4.5 points already. 65% of tickets, 73% of the cash. So the money is coming in on the over, and the over is a little bit public as well. But I do agree with the over in that game. Clippers are at the Knicks. Clippers just lost a close game to the Oklahoma City Thunder, playing them to within 2 points, which broke a win streak. And they'd beaten Cleveland and Memphis the 2 games before that. So I don't think this is the most positive spot for the Clippers, to be honest. They're on a nice roll. And when you lose a game, especially a tough game to Oklahoma City, and it's the 3rd big game in a row, Cleveland, Memphis, Oklahoma City, and that breaks your win streak like that, I don't like the spot that sets up, even though, yes, they are starting a road trip. And usually you are focused to start a road trip. I don't love it, man. I think it is kind of a negative spot for the Clippers. They did beat the Knicks back on March 7th by 10 at home, which I think the Knicks were starting to deal with that Brunson injury at that point back then, if I remember correctly. I believe he's still not back as well, so the Knicks still without Brunson. They're back at home, so I think I like the Knicks better in this spot. It's less of a travel spot. They're coming off a couple of easy wins over Washington and Dallas, but they are playing on a back-to-back. They did have a couple of days off before the Dallas game. They didn't really have to exert themselves in that Dallas game, so I don't think it's the worst back-to-back spot for the Knicks. So I still kind of lean to the Knicks, but the money is coming in on the Clippers, up from 1.5 to 2.5 with juice. 74% of tickets, 85% of the cash coming in on the Clippers. Not sure that I agree with that, though, man. Like I said, they have the added travel there. They're coming off a few big games in a row. So I don't love the Clippers in that spot, but I don't really want to play the Knicks on a back-to-back either. The Bucks are at Denver. Denver up from 2.5 to 5. 90% of tickets, only 62% of the cash, though. So the money is looking like it's coming in against the Nuggets with a significant cash discrepancy there. And I think the line has moved not because the money has come in. I think the line has probably moved because Jokic probably is finally coming back in this game, would be my guess. That would be why the line moved. If you look at the statuses, I mean, Lillard is still going to be out. We know that. Giannis is a game-time decision. Probably expect him to play in a game against the Nuggets. And Jokic is a game-time decision. But based on the way this line has moved, I think that either means that Giannis is not playing or that Jokic is playing. I don't know which it is. But if Jokic is coming back, then you know that means it's a reverse injured player spot for Denver. So if he does come back, Denver has to work him back into the lineup. That star player coming back, it could be chemistry issues. The line's going to move up on that team, so you might get value playing against that team in a situation like that, playing on the Bucks. Nuggets coming off an ugly loss to the Bulls, though, and they've lost 3 of 4, struggling without Jokic. So I don't know, man. They might be in a little bit of a bounce back mode, and that was a return home spot. So that was a pretty bad spot, and it was with no time off, a back-to-back after beating Houston, who's second in the West right now. So that was a really bad spot. It was a letdown spot, a back-to-back, third game in 4 days, 4 game in 6, fifth game in 8 days, all in different cities. A lot of travel, bad spot there for Denver. So after that, returning home, they might actually have a better performance this time against Milwaukee. Milwaukee coming off a tough loss to Phoenix. They're playing a 5th straight road game, so I don't know if it's really the easiest spot for Milwaukee there. So a lot of questions, a lot of different factors in this game. Obviously, I'm not playing it. And then the final ESPN game of the night is my Boston Celtics at Phoenix. Boston up from 3.5 to 4, 87% of tickets, 98% of the cash coming in on them. So the money is coming in on the Celtics. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, and it looks like a very short number. So the public is going to come in and lay the points with the Celtics, especially because they've been doing really well on this road trip. They've won every game on the road trip, winning all these games in a row on the road. You do have to pay attention to Jason Tatum. He sprained his ankle in that play where Sabonis, it was not intentional, but Sabonis, who is back for the Kings now, he defended the shot, and Tatum came down wrong on his ankle. I don't know if he wound up landing on Sabonis' foot or what it was, but he sprained his ankle. Celtics, I mean, they're pretty much locked into the 2 seed now, so there's no real reason to try to play him if his ankle injury is bad and he needs to rest. So I'm kind of expecting Tatum is not going to play in this game. You probably will see other of the Celtics starters, but they really need to get going and play all of their starters, man, because they're going to lose some chemistry coming into the playoffs if they don't play their starters, man. Although it shouldn't really matter in the early rounds of the playoffs, but still. Celtics, I mean, they're playing, it seems like, with some guys in their out of their starting lineup every single night, although they do have a lot of depth. I don't really want to come in and play the Suns here, but the Suns are the more desperate team. Suns are still playing to even try to make the playoffs here. They're looking like they're probably going to be in one of the play-in spots. They're coming off some nice wins over Cleveland and Milwaukee, so they are playing another big game in a row. But, I mean, it's the returning champ Boston Celtics. You're not going to overlook them, especially when the Suns are a home underdog and they have more to play for in this game as far as what the playoff implications are. So I'd probably lean to the Suns, but I will just stay away. That's going to do it for me, man. My one play is UC Irvine in college basketball. I think we're getting a decent situation in a short number, -4.5. Let's turn this fucking thing around. This has been the worst month, I think, of my entire career, man. We're down on the year. It has just been awful. I don't know what else to tell you. I apologize for people that are following my picks. I don't even think they were bad yesterday, but that's going to do it. Tower Gang Toad on Twitter, patreon.com/Tower Gang. Throw us some support and you'll get the bonus content for tonight. We're on at 9:11 p.m. Eastern tonight. Come laugh with us, man. That's it. Peace.